Hey yo, what's the deal? You know who it is. It's the Don. Cheer! Tony Teflon. House Teflon. We pull the strings here on Teflon TV. And what up, what up, what up, what up, my people? Be back up in this. And this is gonna be a little series that I'm doing, a quick one. It's gonna be about the Valyrian steel swords, the great house swords, and all of them that are in this series. And so I'm going to try to go through the main ones at least and try to figure out what happened to them, who took them, are they going to come back, and whose hands they will wind up in. All right. So the first sword I'm going to start off with, since we're going to start, we got to start off with, so I might as well do the most known sword, I think, from show people and book readers, is the sword Ice. That great sword. That is the first one we shall start off with because it's probably the best known. So first, we must see what is Valyrian steel. Now, Valyrian steel was manufactured in Valyrian freehold with dragonfire before the freehold fell. Valyrian steel blades are lighter, stronger, and sharper than even the most best castle-forged steel, and feature distinct ripple patterns similar to Damascus steel. The mark of the steel has been folded over many and many a thousands of times over itself. Most Valyrian steel blades in Westeros are treasured heirlooms of noble houses. Each has its own name and story. Valyrian steel keeps its edge forever. Valyrian steel was always costly, but it never was considerably more than it was when it was in Valyria. And the secret of this was lost when the doom happened. Now, only the greatest weaponsmiths can reforge swords containing Valyrian steel, making those the most treasured swords that you could find in the world, and making these weaponsmiths, these blacksmiths, very treasured to find them. Most of them come from Kor, and they're the ones who claim to be able to forge the steel mostly. Now, every one in about 100 maces also gets a Valyrian steel link. And that means that they have studied the dark arts. Doesn't mean that they were able to get anything at it, but it just means that they studied it to satisfaction where they can get a link. Now, Ice is a gray sword, and the estimated size of it says it's as wide as a man's hand, and it was taller than an adolescent Robb Stark. Now, we know that when Sir Ilyn Payne had the sword next to him, he was holding it. It was almost as tall as him. So we figure at about 5'3.5", 5'4" is probably the length of this sword, and as wide as a man's hand across. We know it's Valyrian steel, and it has a dark, smoky appearance with red ripples. Now, the sword that Lord Eddard Stark holds is not the real Ice sword. Now, the name Ice is from the legacy of the Age of Heroes, and it predates the current sword, about 400 years before Robert's reign. The Valyrian steel greatsword Ice was spell forged in Valyria and acquired by the Starks, and they named it after the legacy of Ice. So they required this sword about 400 years before Robert took the throne. So if you look at that timeline, it seems that they got it right before the doom happened. And it seems like they're very lucky to get it before the doom happened. So after that, the sword was basically used by Lord Eddard Stark to personally execute condemned prisoners. Now, in the show, it shows him fighting Jaime Lannister with the sword, but in the books, we know that he did not use Ice to fight Jaime Lannister. He used a regular sword. So we'll go on the book version because that's the only version that really matters. All right. So Ice is a huge and impressive weapon forged out of Valyrian steel, and it has been in the family's possession for about 400 years. As a Valyrian forged weapon, it never needs sharpening. Now, as I said before, and I'll say it again, the blade is dark and smoky. All right? Dark and smoky with red streaks in it. But it's called Ice. All right? Ned uses this sword to execute the Night Watch deserter Garrett. Now, after he kills him, he goes to the godswood and cleans the blade. And we see this because we know this when we see Bran looking back at one taunt of him after his execution, looking back and showing him clean the blade on the weirwood tree. Now, we also see Bran in an image showing that someone else being executed and sacrificed onto a weirwood tree. Now, I think from these two images, I think it could be taken that by Ned cleaning ice on the weirwood tree right after executing Night's Watchman, I think it could be taken that Ned is also doing a blood sacrifice. Now, whether he's knowingly doing it or not, it could be up for debate. But the bottom line is that he did that. Now, I don't know if he did that after he executed everyone. Is that his ritual, that he went right to the godswood tree and cleaned his blade right then? If he did, then there's no doubt in my mind that Ned Stark knows that he's doing a blood sacrifice to the gods at that particular time. But I don't know that for fact. But I believe that by those showing those two images, that that's what they're trying to convey. That Eddard Stark is using ice and using a blood sacrifice to the weirwood trees. As I said, knowingly or unknowingly, that's what he's doing. Now, he also uses ice after that to sacrifice Lady. And he kills Lady with ice. Now, in the show, we know he uses the dagger, but in the book, we know he uses ice. And I think that's upset the gods, and I think that's why Sir Ilyn Payne uses ice to execute Ned in King's Landing. And then you got to remember, now, just about the same time, when Ned was getting executed by that sword, in gratitude for saving him from a wight, the Lord Commander Jorah Mormont gave Longclaw to Jon Snow. So the Starks lost a sword, but then the Starks gained a sword at just about the same time. Now, after the execution of his father, Robb Stark demands, if they want peace, that he has to give ice back, but Tyrion does not send ice back to him. And Tyrion later regrets not sending ice back to him when he sees what happens to ice. Then Tywin takes possession of the sword from Ilyn Payne. Now, the Quothi blacksmith Tohot Mort, who is asked to reforge ice into two swords. Now, the free city of Quoth is the one that is famous for the blacksmiths, and they are the ones who claim that they know how to reforge Valyrian steel. But they cannot create new Valyrian steel outright because it needs some type of magic to be done, all right? And dragon fire. Now, I know in the past I have told you my feelings of this Tobot Mort and what I think of him. But I will tell you again, if you've not seen that video, that I believe that this man is a servant to the faceless men. And I don't think he is a faceless man, but I think he's a servant to him. And I'll give you my reasons real quick why I believe that. Number one, his doors match the House in Black and White's doors, without a doubt. I believe the House in Black and White's door is black on weirwood, ebony on weirwood, and the reverse on the other side. He has the exact same doors on his place in King's Landing. Number two, we see that from the Mercy chapter that the faceless men have people in locations to serve them. We know this by Isambaro being a mummer for them, and they send their people to him. So I believe that this man is that for them there. He is their doorway, their way to go in King's Landing, their safe haven. All right? And last, he's from Quoth, or has spent a considerable amount of time there. And who do they pray to? We know they pray to who? The Black Goat. And if we remember correctly, after arriving at the House in Black and White, Arya Stark sees a statue of a shaggy black goat. And it is also reported that the followers of R'hllor have tried to burn this goat many a times, but it has not been successful. And why do they try to burn this goat? They try to burn the goat because we know the goat is one of the many faces God's faces of death. So from that is the reason why I believe that Tobot Mort is working for the faceless men. Now, For some unknown reasons, while he's reforging this steel for Tywin Lannister, and he's the best that can do it, right? He is unable to get the colors out of the sword. And he tries and he tries and he tries, but he cannot get the colors out of the sword. He can't get the red and the gray out. So he has no choice but to present the two swords that is made for Joffrey and presented to Joffrey, which Joffrey names it Widowale, the one, and Jaime names the other one Oathkeeper. That the reason why it is the same color that it is because he cannot get this color out of the sword for some strange reason. And this guy is the best, that these colors will not be removed. Obviously, he must have removed color from swords before, Valyrian steel, but this one he cannot for some reason. So what does that lead me to believe? Now we know what happened to Ice now is two swords. So what does this mean to me personally? What it means to me is this. I think we have to look at the word acquired. The Starks acquired Ice 400 years before Robert's rebellion. Now that doesn't mean that it was given to them or they bought it. I think it was taken by conquest. And I don't think that the sword was meant for them. Obviously, if it's red and dusky gray and smoky gray, that has nothing to do with ice in any way. All right? No type of ice is red and smoky gray. I do not believe that sword was meant for them. It was not being made for them. Therefore, by the colors of it. Or I think they would have made them a blue sword, right? A sword that looks more like ice. So the fact that it's that, and the fact that these colors cannot be taken out in any way, even though we've tried to and it can't get out. I look at the houses with those colors, Targaryens, obviously, and believe that that ice was originally made for them and was taken in conquest by a Stark and brought back to Winterfell before the doom happened. That is my belief with ice, and that is why, I think it is broken up into two, because I think the two pieces of that sword will go to two Targaryen people, and I think one is Dany, all right, she will get one half of the blade, and I think that the other blade will go to the other Targaryen person, which I should say right now, but I'm not, because that ties into my next video with the next two swords. Next video I do will be 3 swords. We'll do the next 3 swords, and I'll tie all of them up. Obviously, we'll do the 2 swords that came from ice, and I'll add another sword on top of that. So I'll tell you exactly what. But I do believe it goes back to the Targaryens ice, who it was originally made for. All right? And that's my feelings on that. So if you like the way I did this right here, please subscribe. Please tell your friends about me. Please thumbs up this, you know what I mean? Because as I said before, there are pretenders that sit on top of the throne. And the Teflon Don is coming for that #1 spot. So let's get that. Let's make this rise. Let's get there. And we're going to keep rocking like we always rock. You know what I mean? And I'm sorry it took me a little bit to get this one out, but I got a lot going on in my life right now. A lot of good things. A lot of good announcements coming on. So up soon. So I'll definitely hit you on that. But basically, as I break down that great sword ice, as I said, I think it was taken by the Stark family. I don't think it was meant for them. I think that Eddard Stark has used it for blood sacrifices over and over again. And I think by killing Lady, that was his doom. And with it, that's why I think it got split down to 2 swords, because it's going to go back to the rightful owners, which are 2 Targaryens. And in the world of Ice and Fire book, we do see that the Starks have raided other lands. But I will get into all that, and I will also get into what I do believe is in the Crypt of Winterfell in a later video. So until then, you know who it is. It's the Don, Tony Teflon, House Teflon, Teflon 316. We pull the strings. Here on Teflon TV. I still get used to that. Peace. And stay sexy, my friend.